Hi everybody, thank you very much for joining us on a brand new week on TNT. Brand new day, brand new week. Thanks for those people that joined in on Saturday. And also we had a program on Sunday this week. Yay, I did get around to a program and I'm going to try and make sure I get a program of sort of general interest to you out each Sunday in the future. But gee, there's a lot of news today, a lot of it sort of under the banner of weather, I suppose, including this story from news.usni.org. Royal Navy corvette sinks in the Gulf of Thailand. And there's a picture of the poor boat listing before it sank. The Royal Thai Navy corvette, the HTMS Sukhothai, sank in the Gulf of Thailand at 11:30 last night following a loss of power and subsequent flooding of the ship. And the statement there in the second paragraph says that the Sukhothai was on patrol 20 miles from the port in Bang Sapan district, central Thailand, when strong winds caused water to enter into the electrical system of the ship, which resulted in a loss of power and control of the ship, along with water entering the hull, resulting in the ship tilting. And there in the second paragraph, talking about ships dispatched to assist with the boat, but only the HTMS Kraburi was close enough to reach the scene before the ship sank. 2 Royal Thai Navy helicopters were also dispatched to the scenes. Good news, the 110 sailors of Sukhothai's crew were safely evacuated off the ship into the Kraburi frigate. Strong winds and waves prevented recovery efforts, and the ship sank at about 11:30 last night. Here's a little bit of video from the actual ship. You can see it tilting, listing very, very severely there, and that's obviously before the boat eventually succumbed and sank. And the Sukhothai was one of 2 Ratanakosin class corvettes built in the US by the Tacoma Boat Building Company. The lead ship HTMS Ratanakosin commissioned in 1986 and the Sukhothai commissioned in 1987. So that boat, that frigate now out of commission and sank. I'm not sure if they're going to try and salvage the boat, but that news from last night in the Gulf of Thailand, which obviously weather was a big issue. So let's check some of the other stories in relation to weather. And from Thai PBS World, train services from Bangkok to Hat Yai disrupted by flooding in Hat Yai. And southern train services to Hat Yai disrupted by flooding in Hat Yai, forcing all the trains to stop in Kwan Nyang station. According to the SRT, Bangkok-bound services from Hat Yai also disrupted. So we've done a quick map there so you can see where we're talking about. Bangkok there all the way down to Hat Yai in the south. Just below it there you can see the border to Malaysia. And so that's the routes which are currently being disrupted. And more weather stories from the Bangkok Post. Koh Samui, Koh Pha Ngan and Koh Tao ferries suspended amid storms. All types of boats in the southern province have been told to stay ashore, while ferry services on all 4 routes in the Gulf of Thailand have been suspended due to bad weather, according to the provincial governor. Well, we're in a time of the year where there is usually some quite bad weather in the Gulf of Thailand, although further south usually we've seen the worst of the monsoon at this stage and we start to see bright blue skies. Now, all the islands in Thailand are starting to get very busy in the week up to Christmas. Only 6 sleeps to go. So this is obviously not good news for the tourist trade in those southern islands. Now, obviously, poor weather in around Koh Samui in that part of the Gulf of Thailand. Luckily, over here in Phuket, the weather has been okay over the weekend. We did have a little bit of rain, but it's been more drizzle than rain. We certainly haven't had anything like flooding or heavy rains causing any problems to traffic or disruption to services. Further down in that story, it says that the governor's order prohibited all boats from leaving shore from 8 a.m. on Sunday to an unspecified time on Monday. Further on in that Bangkok Post story, and you can see a list there of the ferry routes that are currently being disrupted. And if you're going on any of those destinations, you should be checking if they're running today. And then it also said that heavy rains and strong winds were reported on Saturday night, causing flooding at many spots around the Suratani Punpin Road and a road by the Suratani Ratchapat University, back of course on the mainland. Suratani partly on the mainland of the Isthmus of Kra and also those 3 islands just offshore. That story there from the Bangkok Post. And even more news about flooding from Thai PBS, flooding in Songkhla, Naritawat and Nakhon Si Thammarat, so all southern provinces. And the story saying that heavy rain and high tide causing widespread flooding in Thailand's southern provinces. Red flags being flown at Songkhla to advise people not to venture into the sea due to waves up to 4 metres. Now 4 metres is a very big wave, noting that your roof height probably in your apartment's probably about 2.3 to 2.5 metres if you're in a more expensive one. So 4 metres is, nearly 2 stories, so that's a very high wave and probably the highest predicted wave by the weather. Most of the waves would be around about 2 to 2.5 metres, I would say. Low-lying areas in the sub-district of Naritawat are now flooded, making it impossible for cars and motorcycles to access several villages. And in the city district of Nakhon Si Thammarat, local administration officials have urged people living near an estuary to move their valuables to higher ground. So obviously flooding causing big problems in the southern parts of Thailand. You've seen disruption to the rail services, various districts and provinces being flooded. Although most of that seems to be happening sort of on the Gulf side, whereas here on the Andaman side of the coast, it looks like we might have avoided most of the worst of the rain. And just to finish off our coverage of the weather, Surin Islands closed to tourists for 2 days due to dangerous weather. The 5-island Mukhosurin National Park in the Andaman Sea will be closed to tourists yesterday and today due to high waves expected over the 2 days. The national park comprises of 5 islands near the border with Myanmar in Phang Nga province. Let's just check exactly where that is. I've marked Myanmar just with a blue outline. The Surin Islands you can see in a big red circle. Then over here you've got Koh Samui, and that's on the Gulf of Thailand side. You've got Phang Nga and Phuket down there. So that's where these Surin Islands are. So if you're heading out to any of those islands as well, then you better check with the people providing your boat tour. And coincidentally, with thanks to 5 Star Marine, they've been a great supporter of the program. So please, when you're next in Phuket, heading out to any of the islands, please support 5 Star Marine. There's a link in the description under this video. You're on TNT, it's a Monday morning, and a host of other news today as we move away from the weather, and a NIDA poll saying that most voters want Prayut to dissolve the House before the year end. Well, it's been a tumultuous 3 or 4 days in Thai politics. I'll summarise that very shortly, but the voters are not confident about this parliament running through its course, although it seems constitutionally that it probably will. A recent opinion survey found that most voters in Thailand would like to see the House of Representatives dissolved within December, as they're unhappy with the performance of MPs. So that's the lower house, which the Prime Minister presides over, and he has the power to dissolve the Parliament if he so wishes. Only 2 weeks to go, though. So let's check, though, the NIDA poll. 43% say dissolve it before the end of the year. 33% let it complete its term. 12% dissolve it in January. Then we've got dissolve it in February. Dissolve it a few days before March the 22nd. Well, that one and the second one are in fact the correct answers. The Thai Parliament has to be dissolved before March the 22nd. By the 23rd, that's the end of the term of the current government. So the Prime Minister would have to get permission from His Majesty the King to dissolve the Parliament. And then an election probably going to be held in May next year. According to the survey, nearly 32% of people are quite unhappy because the MPs waste time quarrelling and often skip meetings. And then a range of other responses there from the NIDA poll showing that people are pretty much unhappy with the conduct of the MPs. A lot of MPs not even turning up to Parliament to vote on important legislation or participate in debates. So they're all running around trying to align themselves. Speaking of which, this story from the weekend that nearly 40 ex-MPs have joined the BhumJaiThai party. Yes, they're ex-MPs once they leave the party that they were voted in as an MP, setting up possible by-elections in those areas. And the Prime Minister probably doesn't want that. BhumJaiThai party, of course, headed by Anton Sharvirakun. And the story goes, the second paragraph there, those ex-MPs have earlier resigned as members of Palang Pracharat, Thai and Move Forward, among others, thus immediately losing their MP status to jump onto the bandwagon of BhumJaiThai, and they're all confident of getting re-elected in the nationwide election under the banner of BhumJaiThai, which is reportedly intended to name party leader Anton Sharvirakun as partisan candidate for the Prime Ministership. Well, he was named as the sole candidate. The parties are allowed to nominate up to 3 people as possible prime ministerial candidates, but they've only named one, Anton Sharvirakun. And the third paragraph there, the House Speaker confirmed that the current number of MPs now total just 439. Well, there's actually 500 MPs in the lower house, so quite a few people have decided to defect or just not turn up to their jobs. A minimum of 220 MPs is now a House quorum. And then down the bottom, no by-election for MPs is warranted by law to find replacements for those who may have resigned within 180-day period ahead of March 24, the date on which the House 4-year term is scheduled to end. So it looks like constitutionally they don't have to have by-elections for those seats vacated by those MPs before the election. And it looks like the way things are shaping up that we've sort of got the Conservative side of politics really being headed up in the lead up to the election by Anton Sharvirakun, and then you've got the Thai and the Move Forward party in the opposition stakes. And so that's sort of the two forces as we head towards the next election, the possibility of Anton Sharvirakun becoming Thailand's next Prime Minister, gaining momentum over the weekend. As we move on to our next story, and workers in Thailand who made F&F jeans for Tesco trapped in effective forced labour. So that story published by The Guardian over the weekend, F&F jeans for Tesco. I've never bought jeans at Tesco. In fact, I've never bought jeans during my time here in Thailand. I never quite understand why Thais love wearing jeans, usually skin tight. It just must be so uncomfortable. Wear a nice loose pair of shorts. Anyway, to this story. And Burmese workers that produced F&F jeans for Tesco report being trapped in effective forced labour, working 99-hour weeks for illegally low pay in appalling conditions. So some quite severe allegations there, pretty much targeting Tesco. The second paragraph, the workers made jeans, denim jackets and other F&F clothes for adults and children for the Thai branch of Tesco's business between 2017-2020. Tesco said the garments were sold only on the Thai market, though The Guardian has seen images of labels written in English on clothes understood to be made there. Profits for sales in Thailand went back to the UK, and the factories in Mae Sot, a city on the Myanmar border that relies on Burmese migrant labour and which has developed a reputation over the last decade as a wild west for workers' rights. The lawsuit argues that Tesco should have known that the area was notorious for exploitation. That brings us to the end of the bit of an update on a wide and varied amount of news from around Thailand today. Just note that if you are going to be doing a boat trip in the next couple of days, probably a good idea to check with your tour provider to make sure it's still happening as that poor weather continues in parts of the Gulf of Thailand coast in the southern parts of Thailand. But from here at HQ Central for TNT, please subscribe to the channel and we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.